Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. It has been a very long time since I have returned to visit Tien Truong Pagoda, to visit the Reverend Abbess, and to visit all of you, my dear Buddhist friends. A few days ago, I was teaching at several Dharma centers in the south. Those centers specialized in Buddha recitation, the practice of chanting Namo Amitabha Buddha, because that Dharma path is easy to follow and practitioners are promised rebirth in the Pure Land after death. The head monks invited me to give a talk. I offered them some feedback. I said, Buddhism is not that simple, because Buddhism is profoundly deep and wise. During the Buddha's time, there were many great non-Buddhist schools of thought. Their philosophies could split hairs, yet in the end, the Buddha's teachings shone like the sun, sweeping away the fog of confusion, awakening everyone to the true Dharma. A teaching of such supreme wisdom cannot be just a few simple rules. You cannot practice a few simple methods and be promised a multitude of results. It is never like that. So today I will touch upon a few practice paths within Buddhism so that you can listen and compare. First, let's talk about the path of Buddha recitation, Neem Fat. The character Neem in the original script means to remember. For example, we have a term, Hai Neem, which means to recall with fondness. So Neem means to remember. Therefore, to practice Buddha recitation means what? It means to remember the Buddha. That's right. The Buddha actually taught 6 forms of remembrance. 1. Remember the Buddha. 2. Remember the Dharma. 3. Remember the Sangha. 4. Remember the celestial beings. 5. Remember generosity and good deeds. And 6. Remember the precepts. The Buddha taught these 6 remembrances. So, Buddha recitation is remembering the Buddha. But when we remember the Buddha, what do we do? When we remember the Buddha, what do we do? For some, the simplest way is to call out the Buddha's name. Isn't it? We just chant Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha. This is the simplest way for those who haven't learned much of the teachings, who haven't studied the doctrine, have never really practiced before. They simply heard someone mention a Buddha named Amitabha and they developed faith. So every time they remember the Buddha, they call his name. They just keep ling like that. This is one way of remembering the Buddha. And is this way high or low? High or low? It is the lowest level. It's too simple. There are no real teachings or doctrine in it, are there? If you just chant, just call the Buddha's name, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. Do you need to know what the Buddha taught? Do you need to know? No, you don't need to know anything at all. You just need faith, right? Faith that if you keep calling the Buddha's name, he will surely guide you. Remembering the Buddha in this way is remembrance through blind faith. It's very simple. There is no ing profound in it at all. Just calling a name. Now, there is another way to remember the Buddha. Every time we remember the Buddha, we remember his teachings and we immediately put them into practice. Now, is this way of remembering high or low? This one is high, because it requires study. It requires a process of listening to the teachings, understanding the doctrine, and then practicing the doctrine. So now, every time they remember the Buddha, they hurry to practice what the Buddha taught. These are people who already have depth in their practice, who have a solid history of following the Buddha. For example, someone like me. Truly, I cannot say, every time I remember the Buddha, I hurry to practice his teachings. I don't use that phrase. Why? Because for me, every hour, every minute I alwa. Remember the Buddha. The Buddha never leaves my mind. For a practitioner at my level or at the level of the Reverend Abbess here, there's no such thing as suddenly remembering the Buddha and Rushi. To do this or that. That doesn't happen. At the level of myself, a senior monk, or the Reverend Abbess here, the Buddha is in our minds every hour, every minute. Therefore, we are always remembering the Buddha and always practicing the Buddha's teachings. Why? Because the foundation of our practice has been built over such a very long, very deep process. The Buddha's teachings have permeated every day, every hour. We always remember the Buddha. Whatever we do, we remember the Buddha's teachings. Eating a mouthful of rice, we remember this food comes from the Buddha's grace. Taking each step, we know it is thanks to the Buddha. So we always remember the Buddha. And because we always remember the Buddha, we are always dedicated to practicing the Buddha's teachings. For example, when the Reverend Abbess and I practice the Buddha's teachings, what are we doing? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? It's the doctrine, yes, but what is that specifically? Honestly, you probably don't know. Because if you knew, you would have already become a reverend nun or a senior monk yourself. At a level like mine or the Reverend Abbess's, the teachings have soaked in so deeply that our minds are always directed towards non-self, anatta. We no longer see a me every hour, every minute, always remembering the Buddha and practicing his teachings, always remembering this bow. DY is impermanent, remembering just like that. This mind is non-self. There is no I. Remembering just like that. Always remembering this body is not me, this mind is not me, that nothing is me at all. As the verse goes, with every breath in, with every breath out, my whole heart venerates the Buddha. That is how we practice. Always remembering the Buddha and always practicing his teachings, so that we no longer see anything as me. In the beginning, however, because we are new to the path, we don't understand the doctrine deeply. We don't know what it means to contemplate impermanence. We don't know how to reflect on the non-self nature of the mind. So we are forced to remember the Buddha by what means? By calling his name, right? We just have to call out, Ad Amitabha Buddha. And whatever will be, then a teach. Or might say, oh well, just keep calling the Buddha's name. When you die, the Buddha will surely guide you. This is a comforting phrase, a temporary promise for beginners who don't yet understand Buddha's actual teachings. But for someone who has followed the Buddha for a long time, who understands his teachings, who has sat in meditation just as the Buddha did, contemplating this body as impermanent, this mind as non-esse. LF, what do they do when they remember the Buddha? They practice the Buddha's teachings. That is what it means to remember the Buddha with depth. That is remembering the Buddha at a higher level. Then when we interact with people in this life, talking, looking at each other's faces, whom must we remember? We must remember the Buddha. This is different from someone who doesn't practice. For example, a person who doesn't practice, who isn't a disciple of the Buddha, when they meet others, their mind just follows the ways of the world. They are happy with the world's happiness, sad with the world's sadness. They cry with those who cry and laugh with those who laugh. If life offers a little joy, they are ecstatic. If life pushes a sorrow onto them, they are crushed. Isn't that so? That is drifting with the flow of life, the way of someone who doesn't practice. But for us, we who know how to practice, we are disciples of the Buddha. We go against the stream of life. So we always remember, we remember the Buddha. When we are alone, we remember the Buddha. And we interact with people, we also remember the Buddha. But when we are out in the world, seeing people in the morning, talking to them at work, doing business, and we still remember the Buddha, what does that mean? At that moment, are we calling out his name? For instance, while you are talking with someone, out in the fields, or at the market, and because you are a disciple of the Buddha, you are always remembering him. At that moment of interaction, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you talking to them while simultaneously chanting the Buddha's name? Is that it? So what are you doing? That's right. Because you remember the Buddha's teachings, you love everyone. You remember to treat everyone with compassion and kindness. That is remembering the Buddha. That is Buddha recitation. That is practicing the Buddha's teachings. And if we can live like that, if we can remember the Buddha in that way, how beautiful our lives become. How beautiful our souls become. And our merit grows deeper day by day. Why does our merit grow deeper day by day? Because we are able to love all beings, we are able to be kind to everyone. But if we practice in some other way, a way where we don't love anyone, where we aren't good to anyone, then we have no merit. You can practice for a very long time and have no merit. There are people who attend the pagoda for years but have no merit. Their merit doesn't increase, their face doesn't shine. I have met many such people. You hear, oh, she has been going to the pagoda for 10 years. But you look at her and see no change at all. Her face hasn't transformed. Her merit hasn't increased, any bit. That is because of wrong practice. Remembering the Buddha in the wrong way. What does it mean to remember the Buddha in the wrong way? It means not remembering the Buddha's teachings. Therefore, you cannot love anyone, cannot be kind to anyone, cannot help anyone. So your merit, it does not increase. 10 years pass and the face is exactly the same. Sometimes it has even declined. But a person who remembers the Buddha the right way remembers his teachings. Therefore, when interacting with people, living among people, they love, they help, they are kind to everyone. They build merit little by little. And so, the merit gradually deepens. After 10 years, when fellow Ishiners see that person again. They see a face that has become radiant. The merit of the celestial realms begins to glimmer, to shimmer on that person's face. And you can see that if this person can't. Inus to practice for another 10 years, upon death they will ascend to the heavens. Because the merit of the heavens is already manifesting on their face. Although not much yet, it's starting to glim. Mer. In contrast are those who practice for a long time but have no merit. They claim to be very devout, but you look at their face and see that they're just going to stay in the human realm to continue PR. Acticing. They haven't gained a thing. Because they refuse to make merit, refuse to love or be kind to anyone. Why? Because they remember the Buddha in a mistaken way. They are so busy calling his Nam. That they don't practice his teachings. What did the Buddha teach us? Do good, avoid evil, and purify your mind. This is the teaching of all Buddhas. But we forget. We just keep calling the Buddha's name. And in the beginning, calling the name can bring peace to the mind. But calling the name endlessly starts to block all other wholesome thoughts from arising. They can't arise. We're too busy. Calling the name. Now we don't have the mental space to love others. We don't think of ways to help others. We don't think of ways to support the pagoda, the triple gem, or the Dharma. Because the Nam of the Buddha is pressing down, suppressing every other thought. So, calling the Buddha's name in the beginning feels like we have an anchor, a place for our mind to rest. But when it becomes extreme, that very name of the Buddha conceals our entire mind. We can do anything else. I often give this example. A rich patriarch had 2 sons. Both sons loved and remembered their father. The first son showed his love by standing outside his father's door all day, from morning till night. Just calling out to him. He did nothing else. Oh, father. Father dear. Oh, father. Father dear. All day long. The second son showed his love by doing what his father wished. He managed the family. Awai estate maintained the properties, developed the businesses, managed the staff, and dealt with the public. He made the family fortune grow. So you have 2 sons, both of whom love their father. But one does nothing but call his father's name, while the other is busy carrying out his father's instructions and fulfilling his wishes. Which son will the father love more? To whom will he entrust the family fortune? The first or the second? The second, right? It is the same with us now. We call ourselves disciples of the Buddha. One person spends all day calling the Buddha's name. Another is busy practicing the Buddha's teachings. In the end, whom will the Buddha welcome? When we die, whom will the Buddha come for? The one who called his name, or the one who practiced his teachings? So, who here specializes in just calling the name? Raise your hand, let me see. All day long, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. Anyone? Raise your hand. For those people, when they die, will the Buddha welcome them? You answer that for yourselves. I am not imposing anything. This is you seeing the truth for yourselves, isn't it? Have I forced any ideas on you? No. This is a reasonable principle that you can see for yourselves. Now, who here remembers the Buddha, loves the Buddha, and practices Buddha recitation by practicing the Buddha's teachings? By practicing to realize a non-self mind? By practicing to cultivate a heart of compassion that loves all people? When that person dies, where do they go? Where do they go? I guarantee the Buddha will guide them. Don't you worry about that. I guarantee it. The Buddha is a protective umbrella for us. There is no fear of falling into lower realms. It's certain the Buddha will bring us to a very wonderful realm. There. So, the path of Buddha recitation is like that. But there have been eras, especially in this period we call the Dharma ending age, where great masters have strayed further and further from the Buddha's actual teachings. Some even teach followers to recite only this Buddha's name while forbidding the recitation of that Buddha's name. Those are all heretical teachers. You have people saying, Yuma, why only recite Amitabha Buddha's name? You may not recite Shakyamuni Buddha's name. People who teach such things are teaching deviant, nonsensical, anti-Buddhist falsehoods. Which Buddha does not teach non-self? Which Buddha does not teach the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path? Which Buddha does not teach compassion? Right? But just because of a name. You can only recite this Buddha's name, not that one. Those are heretical teachers. And to become attached to the name itself. I've already said that just calling a name endlessly is a mistake, but to then become attached to this name over that name, they are pushing sentient beings into ever more serious error. That is the reason I came back today, to remind you about practice. And it is the reason why we must practice meditation. I am not saying one practice is high and another is low. I am saying that Tadayon is remembering the Buddha. It is Buddha recitation. We sit as the Buddha sat. We practice as the Buddha taught. In that moment, sitting still in the lotus posture, contemplating this body as impermanent, clearly aware of each breath in and each breath out, that is taking a step on the path to non-self. That is walking the correct path taught by the Buddha. Therefore, if someone asks the Dharma Center at Tien Truong Pagoda, what path do you practice? How should we respond? We practice Buddha recitation. Are we lying? No. They might get excited and I also practice Buddha recitation. We are the same. Then we can say, but wait, how do you practice Buddha recitation? They might say, oh, I call the name of Amitabha Buddha. Then we clarify, then your way of remembering the Buddha is different from mine. I remember the Buddha by practicing the Buddha's teachings. The other person might ask, what does it mean to practice his teachings? We can explain, I sit in meditation, contemplating this body as impermanent and this mind as non-self. I am aware of my breath, knowing the in-breath and knowing the out-breath. I remember the Buddha in this way. Your way is different from mine. Although we both say we practice Buddha recitation, we are practicing the Buddha's teachings, not just endlessly calling a name. It is completely different. Understood? So today I have offered this reminder. Now I will say one more thing. Someone is bound to ask, if we practice meditation this way, how long until we attain enlightenment? How should we answer? We give them a date. This is how we answer. We are only afraid of practicing the wrong way. We are not afraid of it taking a long time. Our only wish is to walk the correct path taught by the Buddha. We never worry about the time. Because the person who worries about time is a person driven by ambition who doesn't yet understand the Dharma. We have been ignorant for countless eons, yet now you demand a guarantee of enlightenment in 7 days, 7 months, or 7 years. That's trying to cheat the system when our ignorance is already so vast, accumulated over innumerable lifetimes. Therefore, we do not speak of time, we speak only of right and wrong. So, if you ever hear some teacher, promise that if you follow this path, you will attain enlightenment quickly, while following teacher Chan Kwang takes a long time, how should you respond? How? You respond clearly. Teacher Chan Kwang makes no promise of quick attainment. But we are at peace because we find reason and logic in this path. And it is precisely because of this reasonableness that we accept the long journey and have no need for a deadline. Anyone who demands a deadline for their enlightenment does not understand the Dharma. And any teacher who offers a deadline as a promise is lying. Because not even the Buddha could make such a promise. And he never did. For a person with sharp faculties like Venerable Moggallana, he attained enlightenment 7 days after meeting the Buddha. Venerable Sariputta, half a month. But some disciples followed the Buddha are years before attaining enlightenment. And there are people who have been following the Buddha's path since he was alive on this earth and who, to this day, have still not attained it. Therefore, what we need is to walk the right path, the noble path, not a deadline for enlightenment. Remember that. Anyone who craves attainment by a certain date has already fallen into wrong view. And any teacher who promises quick attainment is a liar. Why do they lie? To lure people in, not to speak the truth. As for teacher Chan Kwang, he speaks the truth, which is, don't think about the time. Don't count the time. Because the time required for practice can be very long, or it can be not so long. But in is Dharmanding age, we sentient beings have little merit. So will our practice be long or short? Long or short? Very long. We have to be honest about our own merit, don't we? We have to know our own. Merit is such that our practice will not be quick. It will be long. And if we know our practice will be long, what must our mindset be? What must it be? If you know you must practice for a very long time to attain enlightenment, what must you do? Exactly. You must be exceptionally patient, persistent, and steadfast. Because you know the road ahead is very, very long. Exactly. You must persevere. Don't count the time. Don't count this life or the next. The work of becoming a holy being is incredibly difficult. To go from an ordinary person to a holy being is not easy at all. It requires our merit to be very, very great. So anyone who just practices superficially while hoping to attain a holy state is suffering from a misunderstanding and ambition, and it will damage what little merit they have. Such people, when they practice, often go mad very quickly. They become mentally unstable because they keep thinking their attainment will be quick. That is a form of terrible arrogance, and arrogance leads to insanity. But the person who thinks, my practice will take a very long time, that person is humble. And a humble person who practices with that mindset will be psychologically stable and strong. Not long ago, I met a young Buddhist woman. She came to my monastery to do service and practice. After a while, she said she was busy and had to leave. I thought she was really leaving, but it turned out she went to other meditation centers, other monasteries, to practice. Because she was practicing with me and heard me say nothing about a deadline for attainment, she got discouraged and went some where they promised it would be quicker. As she was practicing there, she suddenly felt her mind become empty and bright. She was overjoyed. She asked the teachers at that monastery, and they told her she had experienced an awakening, a realization, and that she should try to hold on to that state. But after 3 days, it was gone. It vanished. She went around in circles, practicing and practic. But could never get it back. She ran back to me and asked for my advice. I just smiled. I said, your merit was just enough for that. Your merit was only worth 3 days, so it shone for 3 days, and then it went out. She said, but the others told me I had to try to hold on to it. I replied, how can you hold on to it when your merit is used up? In fact, the very act of trying to hold on to that state makes the merit run out even faster. That is a form of clinging. For a person whose merit is truly deep, when their mind brightens, it stays bright forever. It doesn't go out, it doesn't grow dark again. It remains bright. That is a person who has attained sagehood. But to practice until your merit is so deep that when your mind brightens, it stays bright forever, that kind of merit must be very, very great. So, I ask all of you, look back on your lives. Have you performed many great and meritorious deeds? Have you? No. That is a very honest answer. A very accurate answer. It is the truth. In our lives, you haven't yet done any deeds that are truly great, grand, long-lasting, or profound. Not yet. If we look back on our whole lives, what do we see? We see a struggle to get by. A struggle to get by, and then worrying about family. A few have the good fortune to serve their country, and that brings a little merit, but that's about it. And then, they go right back to worrying about their own families. After performing some service, they enjoy the fruits, getting a certain position, a certain salary. It all gets balanced out and used up. So, if we honestly look back at our lives, we have not done the kind of great meritorious deeds required to become a permanent holy being. Therefore, whatever you do when you step onto the path of you must focus on making merit. Make it deep and make a lot of it. That's why when people come to follow me, I don't start with profound concepts. I first advise them to focus on making merit. The fundamental value of a person lies in having merit. A person without merit loses their value as a human being. They go through life, but wherever they go, people look down on them. That's what means to have no merit. Wherever they go, people ignore them, are not considerate, not welcoming. They are met with indifference and coldness. At mealtime, an important social event, people don't and bother inviting them to eat. Do you feel a sense of self-pity then? Yes, you do. And why? Because you lack what? You lack merit. So, living in this world, the first and most important thing is merit. Just try to focus on making merit. Live well with others, live well in the world, love this country, help build this society. Do good without calculating the credit, without clinging to the credit, without boasting about it. Take care of the Dharma. An entire life dedicated to humanity, to all beings, to the country, to the Dharma. After accumulating for one whole lifetime, is that enough? Is the merit enough? No. That's right. The fact that you have realized this, that after a lifetime of making merit, you still know it is not enough, that means you already have wisdom. So, how many lifetimes will be enough? Exactly. In our minds, we must think for countless eons. That's right. In reality, it may not take countless eons. But in our hearts, we must always remind ourselves, I must make merit for countless eons to come. But then, in reality, during one of those lifetimes, unexpectedly, you will attain enlightenment. Cannot be predicted, but you must always resolve in your heart, I will make merit for countless future eons. Remember that. So, we now know that following the Buddha, remembering the Buddha, means seeking the path of non-self, not just endlessly calling his name. Second, how long until enlightenment? A very long time, and we do not count the time. And in that practice, we must know how to make merit to make it very, very deep. So, what are the ways to make merit? There are two general ways to make merit. The first is making merit with holy beings. The second is making merit with sentient beings. What does it mean to make me rit with holy beings? It means, for example, that we are fortunate enough to be born in a lifetime when we can meet a Buddha or enlightened members of the Sangha. If we are respectful, make offerings, serve them and pay homage, that is called sowing merit with holy beings. Sowing merit with holy beings has a great advantage. You sow 1 and you reap 100,000. If, in a past life, you can just once to make an offering to the Buddha, I guarantee you will have the meritorious conditions for spiritual transformation and will be warm and well-fed for lifetimes to come. Because with whole beings you sow 1 and you reap tens of thousands. The benefit is immeasurable. This is why some people have strange luck in life. They just turn around, do something simple, and suddenly make a lot of money. Why? Because long ago, in some past life, they were lucky enough to meet a holy being and made an offering. That good fortune follows them from life to life, making it easy to prosper. That is the luck of sowing 1 and reaping tens of thousands. That is making merit with holy beings. And when you make merit with a holy being, your spiritual potential transforms powerfully. You find it easier to practice and attain realization. Now, what about making merit with sentient beings? This means that if we are born in an age without holy beings, we must make merit with sentient beings. But making merit with sentient beings is the opposite. You sow 10,000 and you reap 1. This sounds very strange, I know, but I must speak the truth. With holy beings, you sow 1 and reap tens of thousands. But with sentient beings, you sow 10,000 and reap 1. This law of karma is strange and difficult to understand. It sounds unreasonable. But today I am compelled to reveal this truth so you understand just how challenging the path of making merit can be. Why do I say sow 10,000 and reap 1? Let me give you an example. Imagine there is a doctor. He studies medicine, opens a clinic, and dedicates his life to saving people and helping the world. Countless sick people come to him and he gives them medicine. But does he take money? Of course. He has to take a little, otherwise where would he get the funds to buy more medicinal herbs? He so has to eat and support his own family. So, from each prescription he takes a small profit to replenish his supplies and sustain himself so he can continue his work. Right? So, is he making merit completely selflessly? No, not completely. But he is making merit because his intention is good. He doesn't cheat people, he doesn't overcharge, and he is dedicated to healing everyone who comes to his heart is good, isn't it? Very good. And if he does this for his entire life, for 60 or 70 years, is his merit vast? Is it? It is very small. Why very small? Think about it. Of the 10 people who come to him for treatment, how many are good people and how many are bad people? Who knows? On average, if we are optimistic, we might say it's 5 good and 5 bad. But if we are more realistic, we might say that in this world, the ratio is more like 7 bad people for every 3 good people, right? It's often like that. So let's go with the 7-to-3 ratio. If there were as many good people as bad people in the world, Tian Truong Pagoda wouldn't have just this many people here today. It is because good people are few that only this many see. To practice. You here are the good people. The others are too busy playing out in the world, aren't they? So 7-to-3 it is. So that doctor, he heals 10 people. He helps 3 good people regain their health to continue living good lives. But he also helps 7 bad people regain their health to continue spreading negative ity and harm in the world. 3 good people can't outweigh the actions of 7 bad people. So, in the end, is he making merit or is he creating problems? Over his entire 60 or 70-year career, is his net merit great or small? Was I right? So there it is. That's why I say, making merit with sentient beings is to sow 10,000 and reap 1. Do you see the truth in that now? For years I have ed people, you must love and help others. But today, I have to speak this painful truth. Making merit with ordinary sentient beings is to sow 10,000 and reap only 1. But can we stop sowing? If we stop, we have no merit and we are lost. I once told this story in a talk. 2 restaurants open side by side. One is always crowded with customers. The other is nearly empty. Why? Is it just because one cooks better than the other? That's RT of it. But this is a secret of karma. The difference in taste isn't actually that great. But for some mysterious reason, customers flock to one and avoid the other. This avoidance cannot be ratio. Nally explained. It is explained by karma like this. In a previous life, the owner of the popular restaurant had built a road for her village. Everyone who walked back and forth on that road became in debt to her, just a little. So in this life, she opens a restaurant and they all have to come eat there to repay the karmic debt of her building the road for them. That is why her restaurant is so successful. Therefore, if any of you want to open a successful business, please make an appointment for your next life. In this life, you must first go out and build roads. That is to say, you must first sow posy. Tive causes with the public make merit with everyone. Then, in the next life, your business will thrive. But if you didn't sow these causes in a past life, you can open a business and it will be a dismal failure. No customers. Success is not just about good marketing or clever advertising. It is because you have a deep karmic connection, a positive debt with sentient beings. So, when we do business and we prosper, it is often because people are repaying a kindness from a past life. We use the prosperity to build big houses and live comfortable lives. The merit from the past returns and we enjoy it all. When we do that, is there much merit left over for our spiritual cultivation, for enlightenment? No. It's all used up. It's gone. We've spent it. The only exception is for those who, when they receive the fruits of their past merit in the form of wealth and status, do not indulge in it. Instead, they use that wealth to continue making merit to help other beings. Only then does the merit continue to grow. But the painful reality is, as we've said, making merit with sentient beings is to sow 10,000 and reap 1. This is the dilemma. So what can we do? In an age without enlightened sages, we cannot sow 1 and reap tens of thousands. We are forced to make merit with ordinary sentient beings. But to do so in a way where we sow 10,000 and only reap 1, it feels like such a waste. So how and we do it effectively so that our merit grows and sentient beings also truly benefit? Which way should we sow? Which way? The Diamond Sutra has already taught us the answer. The Buddha taught that we must guide all sentient beings to the path of enlightenment. That is how you can help sentient beings without falling into the trap of sow 10,000 and reap 1. In this way, you sow 10,000 and you reap 10,000. How? By helping people, but not just helping them and walking away like the doctor who just cures their illness. He sends them home, and what do? They go back to their old lives, their bad habits, their troublemaking. He doesn't know or care. He just made them healthy. That is sowing 10,000 and reaping 1. But when we help sentient beings, we must ensure that they are also guided to the pagoda, guided to practice, so they do not continue to be negative people. We must help in this way. When we help someone in need, we should help them with everything, from A to Z. We help them with capital, show them how to make a living, teach them morality, and then bring them to the pagoda. Bring them here to Truong, to the Dharma center, and have them sit in meditation, directing their minds towards non-self. When we guide a person completely, from their material needs all the way to their spiritual cultivation from A to Z, then when we make merit with them, we sow 10,000 and we reap 10,000. But if we do not bring them to a place of practice, we sow 10,000 and we reap only 1. Remember this. This is why some people do good deeds their entire lives. Yet their merit seems to be nothing. I knew a doctor who was brilliant. He could cure illnesses that modern medicine had given up on. He could even cure AIDS. I saw it with my own eyes. Cancer was a simple matter for him. But what happened in the end? His son became a gambler and the mafia came and seized their house. He and his wife had to flee and disappear. Everyone asked me, teacher, he made merit his whole life. Why did he end up in such a wretched state? That is the exact syndrome of making merit with ordinary beings. You sow 1,000 and you reap 1. Because the people he cured, once they were healthy, just went back to their old lives of partying, troublemaking, and ordinary indulgence. But if he had guided every and he cured to also practice the Dharma, he would have sown 10,000 and reaped 10,000. He would be a glorious man today. Just now in the car, I opened an email from a woman in America. She said, I have a PhD in medical psychology. That's a very high-paying and respected profession. She wrote, when my father passed, our whole family was devastated. He was my everything. My mother was so grief-stricken she went on a pilgrimage to India. There, she happened to meet someone who gave her a CD of one of your lectures. Teacher. When she brought it home, I listened to it, and I felt I had discovered a treasure trove of psychology and spiritual doctrine. Now, I incorporate your teachings, especially from your moral psychology, into all of my therapy sessions. I have helped so many people heal. Many of them are Catholic or from other faiths, but I use the principles of Buddhist doctrine to help them all of their inner conflicts and sorrows, and it helps them become better people. They have become Buddhists in their hearts without even knowing it. A doctor like that is truly sowing 10,000 and reaping 10,000. She is helping people to practice, to cultivate their minds. You must bring people to the path of practice. Only then do. You sow 10,000 and reap 10,000. But if you just help people with their worldly problems and then stop, you sow 10,000 and you reap one. Remember that. And the other way to reap tens of thousands for every one you sow? That's right. By making merit with holy beings. Today, I have revealed a great secret of the law of karma. Anyone sitting here today has grasped a great secret of this law. For decades, I have never dared to speak this bluntly for fear that people would stop wanting to make merit or help others. But today, under this beautiful sky, at Tien Truong before a reverend abbess who, though not tall, is someone everyone must look up to, I am compelled to speak the truth of karma. Recently, a young man in our youth group in Hanoi did something that astonished even me. I don't even think I could have done it. I told all the other Dharma centers to learn from his example. During our first meditation retreat at Da Monastery, this young man managed to bring his entire village to take refuge in the Triple Gem. He only missed 10 families. On that day, 1,300 people took refuge. I looked at the list and asked, where did all these people come from? They told me, that young man brought his whole village. I was amazed. For the second retreat, the number was smaller, around 300. I asked him about it. He said, those are the last 10 families from my village that I missed last time. This time, I brought them all. He got his entire village to take refuge. This is a miracle. Something rarely seen in Buddhist history. And I want all of you to learn from this. Why? Look around you. In your own villages, is there anyone left who hasn't taken refuge? If so, please bring them all to Tien Truong to take refuge. Why? Because when you do that, you change the equation of making merit. When everyone around you is a disciple of the Buddha, when everyone knows how to practice, then when you are kind to them, when you help them, you are in truth supporting their spiritual practice. Therefore, you sow 10,000 and you reap 10,000. But if the people you help do not know how to practice, have no direction towards enlightenment, you can help them a great deal. But it will only ever be sowing 10,000 and reaping one. And when you do that, your merit is too little. Your spirit cannot break open. You cannot have the profound spiritual transformation to ascend to a holy state. To go from an ordinary person to a holy being, you must have immense merit. And to get that, when you help sentient beings, you must help them advance on the path to enlightenment. Not just help them continue living their ordinary lives of ignorance, greed, and hatred. And the first step in helping them on that path is to bring them to take refuge, as many as possible. Because once they take refuge, they know the path. They will spend their lives practicing. Then, new work help you give them is help that supports their practice. And the merit from that comes back to you in full. You are not limited. Therefore, the very first step in making merit so that you can sow 1,000 and reap 10,000 is to do what? First, gather everyone and bring them to take refuge. Yes, you should tell the people around here in Jiao Tui and Nam Din. We have a great blessing. We have a pagoda named Tien Truong Pagoda. And in that pagoda, we have a wonderful Reverend Abbess. She is a person of great compassion, wisdom, and generosity who has dedicated her life to the Dharma. To become her disciple is a great happiness. You must advertise her virtues fully. Then, when they are eager to come, you can reveal the final, small detail. You can add, the Reverend Abbess is not a tall person, but she is someone everyone must look up to. You have to say this so they are not said. Otherwise, they will hear your glowing description, build up a grand image in their minds, and when they arrive, they won't be able to find her. They'll say, I've searched the whole pagoda. Where? He is the Reverend Abbess? And you'll say, she is right here. And they won't have seen her walk right past them. It's a problem. So you have to prepare them. It's like me. The other day was Vietnamese Teacher's Day and some Buddhists came to visit. We were sitting and chatting happily. One woman, who is now a group leader, confessed something. She said, he had been listening to my lectures for a very long time and had been trying to meet me for years. From her description, I knew it was from a long, long time ago, back when I still wore a certain type of rubber flip-flops you can't even buy anymore. She said, I finally came to the monastery and saw you. You were leaning on a staff, wearing those flip-flops. You were so thin and unattractive. I was completely disappointed. I gave up and left the monastery, and I didn't come back for years. It wasn't until many years later, after her Dharma friends encouraged her, that she returned. She joked, perhaps you got less ugly, teacher. And then she stayed. It's true. If a teacher is too unattractive, it can be a barrier for people. So you must prepare people's minds when you bring them to Tien Truong Pagoda. Be very skillful. And you must make a vow in your heart, in my village, if there is anyone left who has not taken refuge, I will bring them here. Will you do it? And the Reverend Abbess will perform the ceremony on any day. She doesn't have a set schedule, does she, Reverend Nun? Any time is fine, right? Yes. Any time. Just like at my monastery. If even one person comes, I perform the ceremony. Any day. Here it is the same. So all of you here, some from near, some from far, from this day forward you must make tea. Vow, I will gather everyone from my village and bring them here. Do you agree? When everyone is a Buddhist who knows how to practice, then when we live our lives, being kind and helpful to others is no longer subject to the law of sow 10,000 and reap 1. Because everyone around you is on the path, every good deed you do helps their practice. So you sow 10,000 and you reap 10,000. And if, among those you help, one of them has a great heart and practices diligently, then you might sow 1 and reap 100 or 1,000. The merit will come to you immensely. Remember this. So today, I have said these things to remind you of what? First, to avoid the extremism of a Buddha recitation path that only involves calling a name, which paralyzes the true Dharma. In those centers, do young people stay? No, they gradually get discouraged. Why? Because it's all based on blind faith and they aren't doing anything meaningful. And the younger generation today is a generation of intellect. The same is true for men. Why are there so many women in pagodas and so few men? Because men tend to live by reason and logic while women can sometimes be more inclined to faith. For a man, you have to speak logically. If it's reasonable, they will listen. A practice based only on faith will not attract men. They'll think, I'd rather go drinking. But if the doctrine has logical depth that they can understand, they will practice with a diligence that can surpass anyone's. And the same is true for today's youth. In this modern era of high education and technology, if you just tell them to believe, they will get bored and drift away. But if the practice has reason, if it bears the mark of wisdom, they will be drawn to it. A pagoda that thrives, a sign that the Dharma is fleuries. Hing is one that is filled with men and women, old and young. Therefore, the path of practice must be one that is saturated with wisdom. Second, once you are on the right path, do not ask for a deadline. The practice is very long. Anyone who promises you quick attainment is a liar. You know immediately they are just luring you, not being sincere. The person who tells you, the practice is long, that person is sincere. And third, to go from an ordinary being to a holy being, you must accumulate immense merit. There are 2 ways to do this. One is with holy beings, where you sow 1 and reap tens of thousands. The OT. Hers with sentient beings, where you sow 10,000 and reap 1. And in our time, which is it? We are mostly sowing with sentient beings. That is why our practice is so difficult, why it's so hard. To have a spiritual breakthrough. We do so much, but we sow 10,000 and reap 1. So how do we change this so we can sow 10,000 and reap 10,000? By what means? By bringing everyone to the pagoda to take refuge. By guiding everyone to practice for enlightenment, to sit in meditation, to turn towards non-self. When everyone is on the path, then every good deed we do becomes bound. Less merit enough to allow us to break through and become a holy being. Otherwise, we do so much, but the merit we get back is almost nothing. For a pagoda to flourish, those who lead the way must be followed by others. For every one person in the lead, there should be 10 who follow. For example, when the Reverend Abbess's generation passes, how many will be here to maintain this pagoda? There should be at least 10. If no one from the next generation ordains, Buddhism will decline immediately. If there are only lay people, there is no Emi to lead, no one to listen to. So there must be ordained monastics to serve as role models, as anchors for the lay community. There must be successors to care for the Dharma. But who will ordain? Who? Why does everyone go silent when I ask that? Who will make the vow to ordain? I am so lonely up here. You raised your hand? Remember that. The heavens have recorded it. If you break that promise, you're in trouble. Let's applaud her. 1 person, 2 people. Truly, ordination is a tremendous act. 1 person ordains, and the merit radiates to countless others. So, when we come to the pagoda, we should all hold the idea of ordination in our minds. But why tea? He silence when I ask? Is it because you think you can't? That it's too late, you're too old? Or for the younger ones, you think you can't leave your family, your spouse, your children, your job? I understand that. I can't blame you. But I still advise you, keep the idea of ordination in your heart. Let it sit there. Wait for the conditions. At the latest, in your next life. If not this life, then the next. And if not the next, the one after that. But there must come a time. You cannot just remain a layperson forever. That must be your aspiration. Can you do that? So, who here holds the idea of ordination in their heart? I'm not saying you have to do it in this life. Just who holds the idea? Raise your hand. Yes, that's right. That's right. That's what I want tea. Oh, see, you must have that aspiration. It's funny. The other day, a Buddhist brother was driving me somewhere and a Buddhist sister was in the back. The sister said, I wish my husband were as devoted to the Dharma as you are. The brother joked, well, you should trade him in. Then the sister told a story from a mental asylum. An inspection team visited and saw a man in a room, weeping and clutching a female doll. They asked what's wrong with him. The staff explained he's heartbroken. He loved a woman who married someone else and he went insane. They moved on to the next room and suddenly there was a commotion. Another Tian had just hanged himself. The inspectors asked about his case. The staff replied, oh, he's the man who married the woman the other patient was in love with. The one who couldn't get her went mad from longing. The one who did get her also went mad and to a fatal degree. The sister told that story to the driver to say, things are not always as they seem. The driver joked again, well, maybe, in the next life, you and I can get together. And the sister replied instantly and firmly, no, thank you. In my next life, I am becoming a nun. Her resolve was so strong. I hope all of you here can have that same aspiration. This life may be entangled. Who here has the most children? You see? You've already created karmic ties. Family, responsibilities, it's too late. Now you're older. But the idea of ordination must be in your mind. Once you know the Dharma, once you have the ideal of enlightenment, you must have the ideal of ordination. There is no other ultimate path. If you make that promise, the heavens record it. If you raised your hand, you're already in the celestial logbook. If you break that promise in the next life, your life will be tragic. You'll love people who don't love you back. You'll try to get married and never succeed. Nothing you do will work out. In the end, you'll have 2 choices. Either finally enter a monastery and practice prop ROI, or end up in a mental hospital like those 2 men in the story. So, we see that an ordained person is precious, isn't he? Incredibly precious and rare. You can walk through an entire village and not find a single monk or nun. That's why we have the saying, having gold in your house is not as good as having a monk in your village. To have a monk come to the village is a great blessing. Gold leads to indulgence, but a monk brings the sound of chanting, the Sowing of the temple bell. We can go to the pagoda, offer incense, and feel our hearts grow calm. We develop faith that beyond this messy, ordinary world, there is a supreme and noble realm. Having a monk or nun in the community is priceless. I don't say this to praise myself. It is a simple truth. An ordained person is a rarity, especially here in the north of Vietnam. In the south there are more, but here they are few. That's why I always hope for more people to ordain in the north. So many pagodas have no abbot, or one person is trying to manage 4 or 5 temples. The laypeople are left adrift without a teacher to rely on. It's a sad situation. So a monastic is truly precious. And what do we do with things that are precious and rare? We cherish them. We protect them. Right? So, even if we cannot ordain ourselves, we must love, cherish, and protect those who have. How? I will tell you 3 things. First, protect them from practicing wrongly. You might think, how can I know right from wrong? They are the experts. But some things are obvious. If you see a monastic following a clearly deviant path, you must find a way to offer counsel. It is too great a waste for someone so rare to ordain only to practice incorrectly. Protect them by helping them stay on the true path of the Dharma. Second, protect them from falling from grace. The most serious downfall is related to worldly attachment and lust. If a monk gives up his robes, or a nun returns to lay life to marry, it is a tremendo loss. That person was so rare, so precious. We must help protect them. How? The lay community must form an invisible circle of protection around the monastics. Of course, they must guard their own minds, but you can help. If you see a young woman constantly seeking private audiences with a monk, you can gently intervene. Advise her it is better not to approach the teacher alone. Please come If a group of 2 or 3 people, this protects the teacher. The same is true for the nuns. If a young man is always visiting a nun alone, you can say, "Brother, this is a nunnery. For the sake of propriety, please do not come here alone. Come with a group and maintain a respectful distance." By being outspoken, you help keep the monastery pure and protect the sangha from falling. Can you do that? Third, protect them from being harmed. This can mean physical harm, but the most common and damaging form of harm is slander. Slander can destroy Buddhism. If you hear someone slandering a teacher, and if another monk is the one doing the slandering, you must stop it. You must be outspoken. Say, "I don't know if what you were saying is true or not, but even if it were true, I do not wish for you to spread it publicly. Please go and speak to that teacher directly, give him a chance to respond." To condemn someone without giving them a chance to defend themselves is unjust. This world is full of false accusations. Always give people a chance to explain. This is especially true when it comes to protecting the reputation of the sangha. Be strict. If a layperson slanders a teacher, you must reprimand them. You can even tell them, "Teacher Chan Kwang told you to. Just blame me and I'll run and hide." But be brave. Don't be afraid. That is how you protect your teachers. An ordained person is precious. So we must cherish, protect, and love them in these 3 ways. Remember this. By doing so, you are protecting the Buddha Dharma itself. Now, I will return to the matter of your Dharma center. A Dharma center is a group of Dharma brothers and sisters who rely on each other to practice with a high degree of self-management. You rely on the Buddha's teachings and on your guiding teachers, but you also rely on each other. To establish a strong center, you need 3 things. A group of people who are resolute and have deep faith in the path we teach. A few core members willing to step up and form a management board. A place to practice. Here, you are very fortunate. For the 3rd condition, you have a wonderful place. Tien Truong Pagoda, with its generous and virtuous Reverend Abbess. With a place and a teacher like this, if you ever go astray, she will correct you. For the 2nd condition, a core group, I know you already have one. And for the 1st condition, dedicated practitioners who believe in this path, do you have that air? Anyone? Yes, there you are. So, from now on, please practice with stability, diligence, and persistence. Rely on each other, and try to attract the younger generation. When young people come, you should form a separate youth grow up because their training needs to be different. It must be more rigorous, more challenging, because they are the ones who will have to shoulder the burdens of the world, the country, and the Dharma. They cannot practice in the same gentle way as the older generation whose worldly work is mostly done. Young people must train hard. Well, the afternoon is drawing to a close. A light mist is settling, and although the rain has passed, every party must end. Every meeting leads to a parting. As I visit here, under the sky of TNTR Wang, my heart is filled with warmth and affection. It has been a joy to meet all of you with your kind and familiar faces and to share these thoughts. I urge you all to be diligent in your practice. I wish, first and foremost, for the Reverend Abbess, a long life and steadfast health, that she may always be a great Bodhi tree under whose shade we can all take refuge. May Tien Truong Pagoda for Eve or be a warm home for all of us, your Buddhist children. I also wish all of you much good fortune and happiness in your lives. And in your practice, may you always be diligent, always doing good. And most importantly, may each one of you go out and bring an entire village back here to take refuge so that your merit may become boundless and immeasurable. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.